Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So here's another deck profile for you guys today. This time it's on Shaddolls. So sorry this took a little bit for me to bring out. I was taking the time to really dabble with the strategy, just to see what I can do to still make the deck competitive. And honestly, Shaddoll can do quite a lot of nasty things. And I found some unique synergies recently on different builds that I found. And that's just something I wanted to share with you guys today. So without further ado, let's go and get started. Alright, so the main deck is 42 cards, starting off with 3 copies of Shaddoll Windy, arguably one of the best Shaddoll monsters in the main deck, especially because she special summons from the deck. If it's a flip effect, she can special summon one Shaddoll monster from your deck in either face up or face down defense, and if she's sent to the graveyard by a card effect, she special summons one Shaddoll monster from your deck in face down defense. And there are ways so you can kind of cheese out the flip effects, but just bear in mind, you're mostly going to want to use the graveyard effects for these. Next up, 2 copies of Squamata. This is basically one of your Foolish Burial cards. If it's sent to the graveyard, you can send one additional Shaddoll monster to the deck from your deck to the grave. 2 Hedgehog. This is basically your searcher. If it's flipped, you can add any spell or trap that's Shaddoll in its text, or if it's sent to the graveyard, you can add a Shaddoll monster. 1 Beast. We all know what this does. It just draws you more cards. 1 Dragon as my MST. 1 Falco just as an additional extender. And of course, to round up our main Shaddoll line, 1 copy of Ariel. It's a 3-in-1 DD Crow, so there's not much else to say about this one. But yeah, definitely the lineup you want to try to go for. Next up, 3 copies of Blazing Cartesia. So this card actually has a lot of great utility for this deck. If she's not only a polymerization on legs, and it's quick effect by the way, but she also acts as basically free discard fodder for your super polymerization, especially because if you can get a fusion monster into the graveyard, during the end phase, while she's in your graveyard, she literally adds herself back to hand. So definitely a fantastic ability. Next up, 3 copies of Mathematician, one of your main starters. On normal summon, summons any level 4 or lower monster from your deck to the graveyard, and yeah, definitely a great card. And it's also an Earth monster, which is pretty relevant, which you'll see momentarily. For my hand trap lineup, obviously I'm going to be sticking to 3 Ash as always. I'm also playing 3 copies of Nib and 3 copies of Imperm. Nib is incredibly strong, especially now that Appaloosa's gone, so yeah. Combo decks, better watch out for that card. For my spell lineup, 3 copies of Shaddoll Fusion, definitely the best spell in the deck. It's just like Branded Fusion, the only difference is that if your opponent has an extra deck monster on the field, you basically use your materials from the deck instead, so. But other than that, it's a great card. I'm also playing 3 copies of the El Shaddoll Fusion, which is one of the relevancy as to why Mathematician is so good, because it just helps me dodge effects if I need them to go through, you know. 3 Super Poly, because I like having board breakers, and 2 copies of Branded in High Spirits. This card actually has a very unique interaction with this deck. So for those who already know what this card does, you just reveal a fusion monster from your extra deck, as long as it's level 8, and then, or I'm sorry, you don't reveal the fusion monster, you reveal the monster in your hand, and then reveal a fusion monster of the same type. As long as it has 2500 attack or defense, and then you discard the revealed monster from your hand. And keep in mind, the discarding is not cost, it is part of an effect, so this will in fact trigger off your Shaddoll effects. And this actually goes in tangent with any of them really, so long as they're spellcasters. And your primary target with this card is going to be the Grand Guignol. And then from there you search out your Blazing Cartesia this way. I was tempted to run this at 3, but I didn't want to go too far past the 40 card mark, so that's why I'm only running 2. Moving on, 2 copies of Triple T. 1 Called By, and 1 Foolish Burial. And of course I'm running 1 of each of the Shaddoll traps. This is basically the one that cheeses out the flip effects, and then of course I got the 1 Schism, which just lets me summon Winda during my opponent's turn. And if not Winda, maybe Construct, you know, just to deal with like light monsters, because Fiendsmiths are light monsters, so that helps too. Alright, now for my extra deck. My extra deck's pretty self-explanatory. Obviously, you're going to be playing 2 copies of Construct. You could run this at 3 if you want, but 2 is more than enough. It's just the Foolish Burial. And I also like that the fusion monsters basically recycle your spells or traps. 2 Winda. And of course, 2 copies of Abclone. 1 can't be destroyed by battle, and the other can't be destroyed by card effects. And having that Winda definitely helps out a lot, so yeah, I definitely like having multiples of each of these. 1 Shekinaga. It is an Earth monster, and that's why I said Mathematician's attribute is pretty relevant. And Shekinaga is just a great way to negate the effects of 1 special summon monster if they activate it, of course. 1 Grand Guignol. You may not summon this too often, but if you do, that's great. But most of the time, you're just going to send this off of Branded in High Spirits. That way you can get access to your Blazing Cartesia. But the cool thing is that you can still use Greg Unol's effect in the graveyard as well. So if you banish it, you can just special summon out the Despian Lulu Wall Lilith. For my super poly targets, you know, 1 Mud Dragon, 1 Garura, 1 Dragus Tapelia. And then for my Link lineup, it's pretty small, just 1 Artemis, 1 SP Little Knight, and of course the 1 IP Masquerade if I just need to go into SP that way. So yeah, it helps. Alright, so that's it for that. Now moving on to the side deck. I decided to try out the Phantasme since, you know, it is pretty much a budget option to the Molcharmy, so figured, you know what, let's see how it goes in. I definitely like it. 3 Drone Lockbird, 3 Cosmic, you know, just to deal with other back row decks. I am playing IDP, just because, like, I like what it does this format, so I definitely think this is a card that people should consider trying out, because, again, it deals with a lot of things. It can deal with Yubel, it can deal with the Faintsmiths, like I said, a lot of things. And 3 copies of Evenly Matched, so yeah, definitely something to consider. Alright, well, sorry to keep this video short, guys, and other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will catch you guys again next time.